The Free Senior High School is nearing a decade of implementation, and according to the Education Minister, Dr. Akufo-Addo, while infrastructure remains a challenge, government is committed to fixing that and eroding double track in all schools. Dr. Addo says while critics focus on the negatives, he and his team at the Education Ministry are working to make the Free Senior High School an all-round success.
I hear all the time people talking about the Free Senior High School, and they don't tell the story of the children who were here. You have to look at something negative and focus on that. They are not focusing on the story of the children. This is a program that has touched many lives.
In his presentation, Dr. Addo highlighted that government has not abandoned basic schools as the NDC claims.
But I know there are some who are watching from home and around the world, and they are saying, what about basic schools? Have you abandoned them? So they will say, yeah, we'll give you credit. You've done well with senior high school. But if you abandon basic schools, children are sitting on the trees, and you're talking about drones. To them, I have a response. I look forward to a day when parents will line up in front of our public schools and beg to enroll their children. That is the day. And it will soon come. And it has begun under Nana Addo Akufo-Addo. Let me move. This is your junior high school.
Meanwhile, some beneficiaries of the Free Senior High School STEM education shared with Joy News the experience of undertaking a holistic science and technology education.
It was such a thrilling experience. We got to see different kinds of people from different countries. We got to see Nigerians, Chinese, Philippines, and other stuff. And we actually cooperated with them very well. And people of Japan also are welcoming and very nice people. And they also let us in on some of their inventions. They made us see how to cure kidney stones and everything. And also, we interacted with some of their high school kids who are at the same level with us. And then our interactions with them were actually quite impressive. And for our school, we will be inventing an airplane very soon, because we've seen that it's quite an easy mechanism for some aspects of it. So very soon we'll be implementing an airplane and many more. And for sanitation too, we are also developing, with the help of our team, we are also developing various ideas. So very soon you'll hear from us.
The Education Ministry believes in the new policies it continues to put in place in the implementation of the Free Senior High School program, which they say will fix its challenges and deliver on quality education outcomes.
So there you have it, the Free Senior High School story from yesterday and some of the issues that came out during the minister's address to the attendees. On phone with me this morning for this conversation is a deputy ranking member of the Education Committee in Parliament and Kofi Asare, Executive Director of Education Watch think tank. Gentlemen, good morning and thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, I don't know if you watched what the minister was saying, but one thing that stood out for me that I want to pose to both of you is that we are focusing on the negative aspect of the free SHS policy instead of the many benefits that the policy is offering Ghanaians. Please, how does this sit with you? Starting with Mr. Kofi Asare, Executive Director of Education Watch.
Well, I think that I disagree with the minister on that. In spite of the fact that it is not the work of civil rights organizations to be touting government achievements, every critical and objective observer within the space would appreciate that CSOs have amplified tremendously the impact of the Free Senior High School on enrollment and on transition between junior high school and senior high school. Indeed, I must admit that some of the evidence of impact that have been generated and well disseminated were actually researched with our own funds, CSO funding and disseminated, and not even by government. And the dimension of impact being brought about the discussion, especially research, government, equitable access in free high school, etc., are all through facts and disseminated, not by. So I disagree with many when you that the focus for 3 years.
Dr. Akufo-Addo, if you can hear me, your sound is a bit unclear. So can you readjust and then take the last bit of what you were saying? Oh, all right. I think we lost him. But Dr. Clement Apaak is also on the phone with us. Dr. Clement Apaak, What are your thoughts? Do you think that we are only focusing on the negative aspects of this free SHS policy?
Hello?
Hi, Dr. Clement Apaak.
Yes, repeat your question. I'm in a bus. So.
Okay, great. So I was saying that the education minister is saying that we only focusing on the negative aspects of the free senior high school policy, as against focusing on the positive aspects like the number of enrollments that we have. How does this sit with you?
Well, I disagree with the minister. And I disagree with him because the policy is a public policy. It is supposed to benefit the people of Ghana. And therefore, there are stakeholders. So we have the students, we have the teachers, we have the parents, and we have the broader Ghanaian community. The rest of the stakeholders cannot be wrong in highlighting what the minister says are negatives. In fact, I am even surprised that the minister would choose to use the word negative. The conversations that have gone on since the coming into being of this variant of the free senior school policy has centered around challenges. And those challenges are self-evident. So when stakeholders speak to the challenges to do with inadequate academic and residential infrastructure, inadequate furniture, challenges to do with the food arrangements, I don't think that is wrong, because these are the realities. And we speak to the challenges because it is our expectation that those challenges will be addressed holistically. And so I disagree with the minister when he says that we focus on the negatives. Nobody is speaking about negatives. We speak to challenges. And I think it is rather unfortunate that the minister sees the attention that we are drawing to the challenges with the hope that collectively we can address them to even make the program better as negatives. So I disagree with him entirely.
Right. We have Mr. Akufo-Addo back joining us. Mr. Asare, please finish making your points before your line went off.
Yeah, the point I was making is that, yes, there may have been some emphasis on the issues. CSOs have researched much deeper into various dimensions of the impact of the policy on enrollment, on equitable access, etc., etc., and gone to the extent of feeding the ministries some of this evidence to inform policy strength and order. I see every effort to identify a dimension of a challenge and then advise the ministry on how to be equitable access. The plan talking about the mind. In the sense, it does not represent at the moment indicated that one, that the broad aim financial access, the poor, so that the poorest poor who have secondary education in view of the ability to some more will now school.
Mr. Kofi-Asare, unfortunately, your line is still not clear. We are struggling to hear you. Can you reposition and try again one last time? He's gone off again. But let me come back to you, Dr. Clement Apaak.
When I'm done, I'll signal him. I'm doing an interview.
Say again?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, so you disagree that we are only focusing on the negative aspects of this policy. So would you say that what remains is a review of the entire policy so that there's clarity on the way forward and how to make it better then?
Yes, that is the call that all stakeholders have made except government. Because we all agree that the policy is a good policy, but it is bedeviled with implementation challenges. And these challenges are self-evident. They are known, they have been talked about, they've been canvassed. Parents speak to them, students speak to them, headmasters speak to them, masters speak to them, and all boys and girls associations speak to them. And that is why we have said that, look, having implemented a program of this nature for this long, it is time to review it. And I see no reason why government continues to be adamant in denying the need for a review, when in fact, the same government that is denying to concede that it is time to review the program told the IMF during the meetings that were done towards the first review of our engagement with the IMF, that it will review and rationalize the pre-senior school program. So if government can admit this to the IMF on page 76, paragraph 47, and the highest government official to have interacted with the IMF is the flag bearer of the MPP, then why are they failing to do the needful as we've all been calling for? So this duplicity and double standard is one of the reasons why we have a challenge with the posture of this government. On the one hand, you agree that the program has negatives. You admit to the IMF that you will review and rationalize it. But on the other hand, when it comes to Ghanaians, you seem to tell us that the program should not be reviewed, it should only be improved. How do you improve a program without a review? And these are the questions that we ought to be asking government, and in particular the minister.
Right. But Dr. Clement Apaak, you are deputy ranking member on the Education Committee. How do we amplify or escalate? How do we ensure that the government listens to the call of CSOs and other relevant stakeholders to review before improving, as they say, or as they said yesterday, that they're going to expand infrastructure and all that? How do we make them listen to the call of the Ghanaian that we need a review? From where you sit.
Well, simply, we have a government that is impervious to public opinion and to the demands of the people that it is governing. If not for that, I see no reason why almost every stakeholder in the educational space has called for a review, and yet government remains hypocritically adamant in conceding the fact that for a program that has been in existence for almost a decade, to quote the minister, calling for a review is something so damaging to do. But you see, my problem then is, if you are telling us that the program should be improved and that there is no need for a review, which I disagree with, because anyone who knows about policy formulation and implementation will tell you that at the very minimum, by the third to fourth year of implementation of a new policy, you ought to review it. You then turn around and tell the IMF that you review and rationalize it. So why wouldn't you do what you have told the IMF that you would do, which is what we have been calling for? But you see, I am a politician. I represent a political party. Our position on this issue is very clear. Our flag bearer, John Normani Mama, has said it time without number, that he would constitute a national stakeholders forum as a first step towards a review of this policy or the program to make it better. Because there is no reason why, for example, we should still maintain the current arrangement where feeding arrangements are entrusted into the hands of the buffer stock food company, where we have suppliers shortchanging the schools. We have instances of unwholesome food items being supplied, reduced items below the quantities being supplied, delays in the supply of food items. I mean, everybody knows that the feeding arrangements as we speak now are atrocious. So why can't we take another look at that, for example? We know that the numbers are increasing. Granted, that is one of the trump cards for this government, that because of the introduction of the policy, we have seen an increase in enrollment. I have argued that that increase is even a byproduct of natural population growth. But even if we want to stretch the argument and give them credit, it is also because they have now decided that students who get up to aggregate 40 from the junior high school should get places in secondary school. And yet, we are not doing what we ought to do to accommodate the increasing number of students. So these are critical issues that have to be addressed. And there are more. For example, why are we excluding the participation of private schools in the delivery of the secondary system, which in itself would be a way to reduce the numbers which are now putting so much pressure in the limited facilities and amenities in our boarding schools?
Okay.
Why have we relegated PTA to the background? And now they call something PAs, excluding the teachers, when we know that PTAs have traditionally played a very, very, very important role, not just in the management of our secondary schools, but even in the provision of infrastructure.
Okay.
So there are so many reasons that would justify the call of a review. And government ought to do the needful by being bold and honest to the people of this country, just as it has been honest to the IMF in admitting that it will review and rationalize the policy.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Clement Apaak. Mr. Kofi Asare, if you're with us now, you've been following the conversation and all the issues that Dr. Clement Apaak has raised. Would you say that indeed a review is the best way forward? And what are the dangers, the looming dangers? Should they not comply with this call for a review and go ahead and make their own improvement or improve the implementation by themselves without a review?
Well, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Well, let me first indicate that, as I mentioned, CSOs have done researches.
Your voice is low, so could you please speak up?
CSOs have done researches to inform the ministry's efforts to strengthen the policy. And so I don't think that that's always been negative. Where they are positive, we have acknowledged. Okay. But the issue is that not only CS, media houses also would need to perhaps talk more about the positive. But to be honest with you, I don't know any positive about the free senior high school that hasn't been spoken about. And I don't know any policy in this country that has been marketed in terms of the outcomes, that have been marketed better than the free senior high school policy. So I struggle to get the point that the minister wanted to make. The free senior high school today, apart from it being Akufo-Addo's #1 flagship, is the most trumpeted policy when it comes to its outcomes. And there is no corner of this country that someone is, oblivious of the fact that the free senior high school has made all the things. But I believe that as for reviewing the policy, every policy goes to review, formatively or summatively, except that the government approach is to avoid the word review and then adapt the word to so whatever it is, we have recommended to the government that the policy needs strengthening in terms of targeting. The policy must target more at the poorest of the poor, those in the last income quintile, earning below 8,000 Ghana cedis a year, the household. A lot of them are struggling to afford secondary education. And so the policy will do them as if we target those and then perhaps reduce how much we are spending pathways to high-income earning families. That's the major recommendation we have made to the government in terms of the targeting. So we hope that both the government and the opposition party will consider this intervention so that in the long run, the poorest of the poor will have every financial access barrier removed in their way to enjoying free education.
All right, thank you so much. And about trumpeting, media houses trumpeting, I'll say we have done that. I don't know if you followed the Hotline documentary, Empty Plates, the free SHS policy, but we are actually probing all these things. But let me come back to Dr. Clement Apaak. Doc, we woke up this morning to news that the Ministry of Education is reintroducing brand new uniforms to rebrand basic education. Is this necessary at this time, or what's your take on this issue?
Introducing brand new uniforms.
Yes, as a way of rebranding public basic school education.
Well, I think, in all honesty, it is a very misplaced priority at this point. As we speak now, public basic schools are almost collapsing as a result of the neglect that the public basic school system has suffered under this government. Invariably, most of government's attention has been directed towards the free senior school policy and its implementation. As we speak, I know for a fact that capitation grants, which are the grants that allows us to say that public basic education is free, because these are the grants that the head teachers of the basic schools, use to organize activities like cultural activities, sports activities, to get carpenters to fix broken doors and windows and weak furniture, to get masons to patch up cracked walls and what have you, and to buy attendance register. It is in arrears for 8 terms, the equivalent of 8 terms, which is putting pressure on the head teachers and, in fact, shifting the cost of public basic education to parents. We even have a situation where only 65% of textbooks, based on the new curriculum, which came into effect in September 2019. Only 65% of those books have been distributed to our public basic schools across the country. We have in excess of 1.3 million people in the country who have no access to furniture. And so why would government, in spite of all of these glaring and debilitating challenges, seek to spend resources in rebranding our public basic schools by introducing a new uniform? I mean, is it not ironic? So the people are going to wear these new uniforms and go and sit in dilapidated classes and go and sit on the floor with the new uniforms. Is that the best way to spend public resources? So I think it's a misplaced priority and ought to be shelved immediately. Let's address the immediate challenges so that the public basic school system at least would survive and be made better when the NDC takes over grip of power in this country.
Right. Thank you so much, Dr. Clement Apaak. He's a deputy ranking member on Parliament's Education Committee. We also spoke with Mr. Kofi Asare, the executive director of the Africa Education Watch, a policy think tank. Well, that's not all. We still have more coming your way on the AM show. Stick and stay.